I am doing a live of my little neurographic art drawings that I do, and I thought I would invite you to join me. And I set it all up to tell you to get your watercolor paints. So, by the way, if you want to join me, we're going to make one of these. Okay, something like this. All right. See those? We're going to do a little simplified version of it because I don't want to have you here all day. And you don't want to be here all day. So you're going to need, and I'm going to tell you what you need if you want to paint along. You're going to need your watercolors and your brushes and whatever else you do. I have obviously water, and this is my brush cleaning and rinse material. I'll show you that as we paint along. My watercolors I'm going to use this time. I have a color chart. If you don't worry about it if you know your paints. If you happen to have some little squirt bottles, or I would say just get yourself some alcohol and some maybe kosher salt if you want to do this exactly the way I'm doing it. You'll need your rinse water. You'll need some rags, some paper towels, whatever you do to wipe your brush off and to pick up spills or to lift the paint. And of course, you're going to need some watercolor paper or a little watercolor sketchbook like this. And then I put down paper towels, or, you know, I have one of those silicone paint areas, but it's too big for this. And if you want maybe a little piece of sponge, you're going to need something to wipe your brush off with real quickly. I actually use these. This is a tennis or a sports, I can't talk, sweatband, and it's cotton. And you can, as you can see, I've already done it, wipe your brush off on it, and then wash it and use it over again. All right? So that's what you need if you're going to join in. You are also going to need, because we are going to do the drawing. I didn't pre-draw one. You can either follow what I'm doing as best you can or would like, or you can do something unique, just whatever you feel. Because this is based on neurographic art. If you don't know what it is, don't worry about it. You can always go look up Google after we do the practice here. But it's sort of art therapy. It's very relaxing. And you get a little piece of art at the end of it. And if you don't like it, don't worry about it. This whole thing is for fun. It's for relaxation. Uh, it's just to kick back and paint and enjoy painting for the act of painting. You don't have to create anything. And one of the reasons why we're going to do something kind of abstract is because anybody can do a little drawing like this and some paint in. Okay? So don't sweat it, just have some fun. If you prefer to do this in another medium, like felt tip pens, markers, or colored pencils, uh, please feel free. Colored pencils you may not be able to, they take a little longer to fill the colors in, okay? But markers, crayons, hey, what the heck? Don't worry about it, okay? We're going to make a simple drawing, and we're going to go from there, all right? So I hope I gave everybody enough time to find out what we're doing. And we're just going to see what happens here. Now, I have to mount the camera. I was going to do that before, but I have been telling everybody I don't do this very much. I've been on YouTube for I don't know how long, but I think since 2015 or 17, but I've never done this. I've never had the time. And now I do, and I want to do it for fun and for community, etc. So I'm trying to get this all set up beforehand, so bear with me, please. Just bear with me. I got to mount the camera up here. All right, now it's up there. Now I've got to see where I can find the live and get into it myself. And that's going to be interesting. So I have to find me. I'm on my other. There it is. I think that's it. Right there. Okay. There it is. I think that's it. Right there. All right, now. I think that's it right there. All right, now. I think that's it. I got to make sure this is me. All right, now. I think that's it. I got to make sure this is me. Okay. All right, now. Oh, I have to turn the sound off on this, so hang on. Oh, I have to turn the sound off on this, so hang on. I have to turn the sound off. There we go. Okay. See, that was all supposed to be set up, and I apologize. It wasn't. Now, I'm going to adjust this a little bit. Looks like that's going to be it, folks. I hope you can see me. I wanted it a little... You know what? Hold on. Of course, I want to do this, and my hands are... Ah, got it. How's this? Is that a little closer? Let's look and see. Bear with me. Is that it? Yep. Okay. Now, we're ready. Or ready as we're going to be. Now, if you want to ask questions as we go along, please feel free. I'm going to try and check the chat occasionally so I can see it. I would like it to go sideways, and I know it does, but now I can't figure out how to do that. Maybe if I touch on it. Nope, that did no good whatsoever. That just brought up my thing. But I'll do the best I can. I will answer you live on here. Now I'm going to get my little bottles ready. I've got water spritzer and I've got an alcohol spritzer. Okay. Now I want you also to notice that I have my paper taped off. I haven't been doing that. I don't know if you can see it. Because the tape is white. But there's the edge of it. It's about a 1/4 inch all the way around. So that's going to give me a white border. And I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do here first. And then you can do something similar. You can try and follow along. I don't know if that's going to be upside down for you, and so that'll be hard. But do the best you can. It's, again, this is for fun. This is an exercise, and there's nothing telling you you have to make it look like something. We're doing an abstract, so it isn't going to look like anything, and so you don't have to worry. But just do a basic design, and I'm going to do it as simple as possible. And the whole point of this, they like you to draw like just a few lines. There's other qualifications to this too, but right now I can't remember them because, okay. I tend to not follow rules, so I thought it was a neat idea, and I thought, well, but I'm going to do it this way, which is very typical of me. But I think what you do is you're supposed to do it in one swoop, one whole line. So I'm going to try that today. So I may not like my drawing much either, but I don't care because all I really want to do is paint. So I'm going to do something like that, and then I'm going to do a little circle. And I'm going to come around and go this way. Then I'm going to do that. And I want to kind of break this up a little bit. Oh, that's not good. I hope that didn't happen to you. But if it did, just do what I'm doing here. I just tried to make them meet. And if we care about what it looks like at the end, we can fix this line, okay? Now, this is, honestly, this is simple enough. I'm going to pretend I didn't lose that, and I'm going to do what I would have done anyway. Now, I don't care about here. That's on my tape, but I want this to come down through here. Now, I want to create something myself and have that circle repeated, so I'm going to do it right there, okay? And if we need more or less, we can do that in the third stage that isn't part of the neurographic art, but is part of what I do. So we've got our little line. Now, in neurographic art, they like, and they ask you to round off all these little corners, like this. And by the way, you can get a close-up of your video if you want. And I just lost my own video. But I'll find it again. Okay, I think I got it back. Now, we've got a little line on there. And see these little corners? And then I usually like to follow that line up so it's smooth. So I am going to do that. Now here are more of the corners. And they like it. You go in and read about it, okay? Because you may prefer to do it the proper way. And I'm not really giving you the proper way. I'm giving you the Pop Art Diva way. Which is, this is how I decided to do it. And that's the way I'm going to do it. So there. Oh, I didn't want that to be so thick. But you know, thick and thin lines add interest to a drawing. And there's your first little tip. You know, if you do a line drawing especially, if you only do one thickness of line, it gets a little boring. And now because I got so ambitious on this one, I have to kind of touch it up. Now, I am not going to be too perfect on this because I don't want to take up all your time with my obsessions. And one of my obsessions is, you know, oh, look, like right here. Okay, that would drive me crazy because I'm a little, well, what we used to call was, I'm a little anal. Okay, now I think they call it ADHD. I don't know which one it is. It's one of those. It's one of those initial things. That will drive me nuts. I'm the person who'll come into your house and straighten your pictures. Okay? So, normally I would fix that because it's just me. I'm not going to do that because it really won't drive me insane. But I won't like it. But there's a lot of things in life that I don't like, and there's not a lot I can do about them, so I don't let them disturb my life too much. I don't stay up at night, you know. Okay, see this? I'm not going to go into this too much. Ooh, you know what? While I'm here, I shouldn't have done this. It's cheating, but I decided artistically that I'm going to join that down there. That's okay. If you feel like that on yours, do it. Now, this is going to require some fatter lines sooner or later, and where I would do it would be in the same curve. Okay? So I'm just going to pretend, and we'll fill that all in later. All right? And I just popped off my press-on nail. So you're going to have to deal with my ugly nail. And yes, that's how I change my nails to match my outfit every day. They look pretty good. I don't particularly like how I did this set because I didn't have time to trim it. So they're much longer than I prefer. And I think that starts to make them look phony. But, hey, to each his own. All right, now, as an artist, I see all sorts of things I want to do, like a little circle here, some lines here. Those will come in at the end as accents. Because now, if you are, I are, ready to paint. Because this is an exercise. And give me a second, I'm going to break my binding edge there a little bit. And I'm going to move this. All right. Is there somebody there? I can't tell. Is there somebody watching called Genesis? Or is that something, and it looks like there's maybe Isabelle? I don't know. I can't tell. If there's somebody actually watching and you would like to say hi, just say hi so I can see you and know that you're there. again, any questions you have, feel free to ask them. All right, now, this I just got. I don't know if you can see it, but the one thing I know I can do is this. Okay, and this, watch this. I don't know if you can see the water in here. All right, but that just emptied it out. And now it's refilling. Cool, huh? Okay, another TikTok buy. I love TikTok. So it didn't cost very much, and I noticed last night that it leaked out. Not completely, oh, interesting. It leaked out a little bit into here. But it's not doing it now, so if for a painting session, I don't care. I'm going to grab my brushes. The other thing I always have, I'm using these. These are those brushes that you fill up with water. There's actually some in here. I'm not using that way right now, but these are for traveling, for plein air painting, and for when you go outside, because you can literally take your water with you in these. I think you still need water, but that's a pretty convenient thing. And you know, these are not bad brushes. They hold a point, and they have a pretty smooth application, and they hold a lot of paint. I'm pretty happy with these. And this is sort of maybe the comparable to like an 8. What's its name? Not a filbert. No, what's that other one? Oh, my brain went dead. You know, just a regular watercolor brush. But look at that. And this is probably closer to maybe a 7. It's a little smaller. Maybe a 6. All right. They don't give you any numbers, but that's okay. I'm going to stick with the 6 here. The other thing I keep on hand is one of these. You never know when you're going to need this little squirt. I don't know what it's called. I do, but I can't remember because I'm old. All right. So I have Swiss cheese for brains, but I always have this on hand. I always have a little piece of sponge, paper towels, which I've got underneath my work table here on a roller, and of course water and my paints, etc. And as I go along, I'll tell you more. What did I do with my salt? Here it is. I keep my salt close by. Okay. Now this is pretty chunky. This is even bigger than kosher salt. Okay. So if you want it smaller, sometimes you can knock it down a little bit, but I happen to like this big chunky stuff. It's more noticeable, but I keep that close by. And of course, my squirt bottles of water and alcohol right here. Now, we're ready to go. I'm getting my brush. This is interesting. This brush has got a little color left in it. I didn't do a very good job cleaning it. Okay, let's try again. Fill it up with water. It's good enough for horseshoes or whatever that expression is. Now, let's just do a simple rainbow one. I think that'll be easy to go. Now, in watercolors, you start with the lightest color because these are transparent. If you put a dark color on, it's going to cover up other colors. So you start with the lightest colors in watercolors. Okay, so I'm going to start with the yellow. And people like rainbow colors, you know. I have to admit, I do a lot of paintings in rainbow colors. I like all the colors. And I did something stupid. I also did not spray my paints. Now, when you've got watercolor paints, you want to mist them and get them wet. Okay. I am soaking them with the spray, and this will soak in. You can also do it, and by the way, this is another reason why this is good. Okay. is you can also do it. Hold on a second. I'm still here. By the way, I always keep, even though I got this, let me do this. You can also do it with little droplet like this, okay? Just as easy. Just drop it on. Or you can just be quick about it and just do that, okay? And by the way, you rarely see me use these. These are metallics. I rarely use metallics. And the reason why is once upon a time, when I was a professional artist, I've been one my whole life, for over 50 years now, the way they reproduced art was different. Most of things are done digitally now. Now, I haven't even checked. I should ask and find out so I can let you know. But once upon a time, you could not use metallic paints if you wanted to reproduce a piece of artwork. The metallics in the paint reflected back the cameras that were photographing the artwork and turned everything black. So it didn't work. You couldn't do it, okay? And I'm not going to go into a long explanation of how we used to do things in photography and plates and, reverse negatives and blah, 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 blah. I won't go into that. But, so we're ready. I'm going to start now. So I've got my yellow, and I've got a nice amount of saturation, and that's what I want with this. Now, I like to balance my colors, so I'm going to start, well, let's start with a little piece right here. Let's just keep it inside, and we'll just be real simple, okay? And we're just going to put the yellow in there. Fill up the area. And then I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to put more yellow in. This is to balance the other yellow. And of course, this is, don't worry about those two lines there. We're going to fill that up with black. Also, if you color outside the lines accidentally, don't worry about that either, because when we come back in and re-ink everything, I will often do that because the paint will go over. And see this, what happens? Here's what happens when the paint goes over. It covers up the black a little bit. You see that? And you can leave it if you want. It's no big deal. But I like that black to be black, so I will go back in and re-ink. Okay? So that's why you can actually do this original drawing in pencil if you'd like. Just remember, once you put paint over pencil lines, you can't get rid of the pencil lines, okay? They are pretty much buried underneath of the paint. And, if they're outside of a paint line, yes, you can. But not if they're under. Well, this is effective. I'm going to show you this. It's interesting. It's an interesting idea, but I should have wiped my brush off first. Okay? Because this had too much paint in it, and now I still have yellow water. Although it's not a big deal because we're going to go into orange, and that's not going to hurt anything. All right? I may do some graduated colors in here like I did in this, where this goes from purple to magenta. But right now, I'm going to keep this one as simple as possible, okay? So I'm not doing any graduated colors. I'm just going to, I may, don't take everything I say with a grain of salt. I may get ambitious or I may forget and just put a graduated color in there. If I do, you don't have to, okay? So now I'm going to go for the orange. And I'm glad at least you can see me mixing the paints. Yeah, my orange was a little, oh my goodness, these are clean compared to what my palettes usually look like. I will go from this to a blue, okay? And then I'll put the orange in a blue and mix my color, all right? And then I'll go to another color and pull some. By the time my palette is over at the end of the day, I literally have to take it and rinse it underneath, which is very wasteful. But it's just the way I paint. I usually have to rinse it underneath the faucet to get these back to a clear color. And then I clear my palettes, usually with a paper towel with dipped in alcohol. That's quick. That's the quickest way to clean mine. Or I rinse them under the sink too. Now, I want this, and I don't want it right next to the orange. I kind of want it a little balanced to it. And this will work. This will work perfectly. Okay. Now, I may not have done the greatest drawing for this because I didn't, when I do my original drawing, I usually do it in such a way that it creates a good area. Boy, I really got some pigment on this. This is almost too thick to paint. There we go. I usually do it so that the design is balanced at the drawing stage so that I have ways to put my colors in balanced. And by that, I mean, it helps, you know, you don't want to put this right next. I take my colors and kind of try to draw and separate them out. And I also see right now an area where I can help myself in the future, right here. And I'm going to connect this to that line so that that splits this and this. And I may do that again, and you can do that again too, if you're following along. And if anybody is following along, I don't know if you can put images in your comments to the videos, but if you can, take a picture of what you did and send it to me on a comment. Okay? Now, so I've got the orange in. So we're doing this. Remember, I almost put it in the water. Now, I actually have a separate bucket of water over here. And I always have more than one water source because then if I want to, I don't have to wipe it off on that. I can rinse it off in water first to keep this water cleaner. And that's generally what I do. I put it in there, rinse it in here. Boy, this is really sucking up paint. The other day, I've never seen it before, but I couldn't figure out why my color was mixing bad. And I looked up, and the water that was in here was all tinted with the previous color. And it was enough pigment in there to discolor what I was painting. So I have seen these suck that paint right back up in here. So you want to keep an eye on that. And I don't know if it's the brand or what. I don't know. That's the first time I've ever had that happen. Now I've got a clean brush. Now we're going to go into a red. Okay, I hope I'm not moving too slowly for you. You could actually do 2 of these at once, like bingo. You know, I don't like that next red. And here's where you're going to see me. I will rinse a little of the color out. But I'm just going to go pretty much right back into, I want something a little darker red here. I want this one. I was using that one. It's too orange compared to that. And I want this one. And he doesn't want to stay up there. He wants to keep falling down. And I don't want him to fall down. But here's my red. No, there he is. There's my red. Okay. And I've got a lot of pigment again. And I actually want a little bit of water. I'm sorry, I'm just watching the water go back down the stream here. I got to quit watching my water dish. Now, this one I won't be so bad if I have it next to each other, or I could put it here and there. Now see, this one I really, really, really want to do a graduation on it. And the reason why is this is a big area. And I don't want to fill, I'm not going to fill everything in here. I like a little negative space. And part of me right now, as I'm looking at this, would like to leave this a negative space, although it's got a black smear on it. Okay? But part of me wants to leave that as a negative space. So, since this is a simpler one, I want to use 2 colors, and oh boy, did I miss that. It happens. I'm glad just lately I have not been, I just haven't been up to par here. I want to go into a purple, and I think I'm going to grab this one. And you can't really see. You might be able to see, but I've still got red on my brush. As I said, sometimes I do that, and I'm going in here, and I'm going to try. This is already drying in here. Isn't that interesting? So what I'm going to do is take a little bit of water, and I'm going to see if I can do a cauliflower with it. Boy, that is already dry. That's interesting. A cauliflower, a backwash. What's the other name for it? My brain just went completely dead. It's where you have, but this would have been wet. Okay, if I put this here and it backsplashed, you would have seen it. Let's see if we can do it. Now, the interesting thing is, you can also mix the paint on the paper, and it looks like I can get away with that here. You can't always. It can't always, but it looks like here I can. Now this, watch this. If I don't connect this, this will do one of those. It'll be little because there's not a lot of water and it's a little dry, but I would have gotten a backwash and I don't want one there. And look at that. There, we solved the problem. That's the one thing you can watercolor. What happened here is that the watercolor lifted as I went back. The red lifted as I brought that lavender, that purpley magenta in. And because it did, it mixed on the paper. That's not always going to happen. It depends on the paint brand that you're using and the paper that you are using. Now, I'm going to start this with blue here. And then I'm going to bring it down, and since I can do that on here, I'm going to do that on here. And I don't want to get too much in there. I want to make that a little softer because I want to keep that magenta there. I also use, this is why I put, what's this called? Paper towels under here. Because this is the way I've painted my whole life. I put a regular cloth cotton towel underneath and paint, and then I just do this on my towel. Okay, I was trying to be neater for you guys, but old habits die hard, baby. Now you're going to see here right now, you can see it. Ooh, right now you can see that's called the backwash right there. If it was bigger and more dramatic, you could probably see it better. But I'm just going to use a little dotting technique, and then I'm going to keep it wet all the way up to the top, because if I left it here, this would be a hard edge. I don't want that. And the other thing is, I think what I'm going to do here is, I don't like this dark. I don't like this dark. I'm going to lift some of this paint. Now look at that. I have now taken lifting, and you got to be careful with this and with certain watercolor papers. This is not expensive watercolor paper, and it's not going to take a lot of reworking, but it will allow me to do that. Okay. Now I'm going to lift a little of that too to lighten that up. Okay. And I will quit saying okay. Okay. Let me look and see if there's anybody there. I don't know if somebody asked me a question. There's a Facebook thing on there, an F, but I can't read it because I believe it's in Spanish, and I don't have my earphones yet, and I'd have to make it say it out loud. So, no entrado idioma. I hope that doesn't say what I think it does. No entry, Florenar del Val Vasquez. Florimar del Val Vasquez. No entiendo to idioma. I have no idea what that means. If it's an insult, I don't know. If I find out later, I'll block you. And if it's not, then I will try and translate it and answer you later. Okay. All right. Wow, there's still orange in there. That's interesting. That's okay. And looking at this, it looks as though these paints have a little bit, you can't see this maybe, but I can. They might have a little bit of staining element in them. Okay. We'll see. Or that just could be what's left of the water. I can always take this and suck it up if I want. All right. But it's not critical. Now, so we got the red and the turquoise, the red, the purple, and the blue in there. And now, I think I will come back later, but I do want to put some actual purple over here. Now, purple is very close to the opposite of yellow. This is a color wheel. And here is yellow, and here is purple. Okay, these are opposites on the color wheel. If you mix these two colors together in light, technically, in light color, in other words, color that's made by light, not paint, you would get gray or black. Okay, you get black. They cancel each other out. In paints, you're going to get probably a brown. In fact, I can show you. Here's a yellow. And I don't have a real purple in this set. Isn't that interesting? There's several magentas, but not a real purple. So let me make something here. This is not close enough. Let me make it a little darker. Okay, a little bit more blue. Not quite, but now. It actually looks more of a green, and that's because this wasn't a pure purple. It was closer to a blue. So we need more red. And now we're getting closer to a brown. Okay? That is an ugly color as far as I'm concerned. I would call that mud. And that is usually what you get with opposites. You get, you should get a gray. But you're not going to be able to get the pure opposite to each other. So you're going to end up with colors like that. But sometimes you've got to use the right paint. I knew they weren't, but I don't have a real purple in here. I could have mixed one, but, yakety yak. But see, get yourself a little color wheel. This is nice. It's a little keychain color wheel, and here's red, okay? Here's orange, and orange, the opposite of orange is blue. The opposite of red, actually, these colors are not correct. This is what I would call the real red. The real red is opposite is green. Its opposite is green, okay? Not this turquoise blue. This turquoise blue, I think what they were hoping that this is here's orange, here's red. Here's a red orange. Okay, but that's not actually the case, even on this. It's just a cheap little thing, and those are enamels. That's not a real red. That's way too blue. In other words, by blue, I mean it's got, that red has a lot of blue in it, and it's cool. A pure red is warmer, okay? Although I like these colors of red. And this isn't really a true magenta, all right? But this will give you something like that. Get a good color chart, and it'll give you an idea. So let's get back to painting. I think I want to put some purple in there. And again, we don't have that great purple. So I'm going to mix it. And I'm going to do that right here. I don't like these blues particularly either. This is not my regular paint palette. This is another little palette that's got a lot of white in it. Let's see what we get, just out of curiosity. See what we end up with. Let's go with this This one's a little more purple to start with. Okay. It's still not going to give me my dark purple because I'm telling you, I don't think these are watercolors. I think these are a gouache. And that is not giving me the color I want. Because these have too much white in them. They have too much white in them. And I can see it. And I can't do a darn thing about it. Except switch my palette, which I don't want to do. I'm going to go and get this that sort of looks like, almost, it's not really, but it looks like it's an attempt at Prussian blue. Now that's going to give me a better purple. Let's see what we got here. Okay. Not great, but I'm going to use it because, and it's way too dark. My paint water just all drained down in there. How interesting. Okay, that doesn't work. That thing drains out. Okay, that gives me a little bit of a purple there. Not quite the same color, so I'm going to put a little bit of magenta in there just to pick that up. Anybody? Nope, no questions. I don't see anything yet. Now you'll see a little tiny cauliflowers right here, but it's still wet enough I can do that and get away with it. But I don't mind texture, so I don't worry about those. And remember, I'm doing an abstract, so, and so are you, I think. Now we've got that in there. Now I don't want to pick up that same blue, but I would like kind of a turquoise blue. I'm not going to use these paints again. I don't like them. I used them once before. They seem to be all right, but I'm also misting again. This has got way too much white in it. Now, I got news for you guys. Watercolors do not have white in them. You won't see this color. Where do I paint it? I'll show it to you. Here, it would not be nice. Okay, see that? You're not going to see that color in watercolors straight out of the palette with a lot of pigment in it. Okay, that's got white in it. These are not a true watercolor. These are, they're not a true gouache either. And I'm not real overjoyed with them. You'll see that color if you take a blue-green color, a natural blue-green color, like I call it blue-green, like a phthalo blue, and add, boy, I do not like these watercolors. And take a phthalo blue and add white to it, or excuse me, not white, water. Add water and thin it down, thin it down, thin it down, and you will get a lighter. You'll get a pale blue. That's how you get pastels in watercolors. You don't mix them with white. You mix them with water. It thins out the pigments and gives you a lighter color. See, this has more pigment in it, and it's darker. This is nowhere near the color I want. But I am going to put this down, and then with a little bit of green, and get the color I want on the painting. And I am making a big mess because the paper is flopping up and down. And I'm still managing to stay somewhat within the lines. Now, I'm going to come back. And I'm going to use down to dirty water because this thing completely drained out and I don't have time to ask. I'm going to use this. See, you aren't going to see a pastel green. This is an Easter color. You're not going to see this, okay, in real watercolors. You aren't going to see it. You're not going to see it because it doesn't exist. But it is mixed over this blue, giving me the color I want. Whoops. Okay? But it's a little muddy. It's all right. It'll settle. It's a little more subtle. I am just not having a good day here. So this should not make you feel bad. And by the way, remember the tape is down here. So I'm not, you know, really making bad mistakes. I'm just not putting too much effort into keeping it within the line when I don't have to because the tape's there to create the line, okay? Now I need a darker green. Oh dear, I'm going to have to use this one because I don't have, oh wait, let's try this one. This might be a forest green. No, it's not really. It's actually a blue. But that's okay. It's a blue-green. There we go. That'll do it. That will do it. Okay. Now we are pretty well along the way on painting this one. Some of that in here. And just mix it all up and lift that a little bit. Okay, that actually isn't bad. It's a little darker than I would like it to be, but that isn't bad at all. Isabelli, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I think you are the one who put that in there. I am so sorry I can't read it. Boa noite or boa noite. I don't know. Good night. I don't know. I speak only a very little French and like 3 words in Spanish. And then the rest of me is, you know, Midwestern American. All right. Now, this really needs help. Okay. Oh my God, that color is definitely not. I did look at these, and I just painted them the other day. I'm not liking them at all. Let me see what I could put here. Okay, another thing I like to do on mine is I like to put these black and white pegs in, the markers. They're sort of a signature of mine. I like the black and white, that graphic look of the black and white against the colors. I think it really makes the colors pop. It makes it so much more graphic. But I'm not going to do that on this one, at least at this point. I may come back in when it's all finished, and I may put those somewhere just in a small area just to make myself happy. But because it's basically a signature of mine, I'm not going to put it in here. And then we'll keep this, you know, within what anybody else would do. Or maybe anybody else would do. But I have to, see, I was listening to another YouTube from another artist the other day. They said something that's so true. They said there's always a stage in every painting that is so freaking ugly. Okay? Actually, there's more than one stage. I think he acknowledged that too. I know his name, and you probably know his name too if you watch a lot of art videos. He's one of my favorite artists on here, on TikTok. And he's on YouTube too. Big, his last name I think is Sava. I'm sorry. My brain. Oh, I'm sorry. I want to call him Doug, and I don't think that's right either. Anyway, I'm sorry. Not Doug, or not Doug Sava. I can't remember your name. My brain is blanking. It's one of those other holes in my Swiss cheese up here. Hey, I'm 74. You know, you're half my age, so. Anyway, I love him, and he just, oh, you'd love him too. If I could get his real name, I'll put it in the comments after this video. And then I'll berate myself again. But he said, and it's so true, that there's always these ugly stages. And there's more than one usually, but oh my God, you wanted to say, you know what, this isn't worth it. Right now, this is here. This is ugly, ugly, ugly. Okay, but I am going to carry on. Why, I don't know. And the bad thing is, I hate these paints too. It's very important. Okay, point. Another tip. Get paints you like to work with, that the colors are right. I mean, I'm so used to classic colors like cobalt, ultramarine, carmine, you name it. And then there's some of the newer ones, from the 70s, okay? But they were newer for me, that I know too. But now they've got, I mean, these don't even have colors. These have no names. That tells you something about these paints. I have no idea what I'm going to do here because this is so ugly. All right, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go back to a magenta. There's really not, there's this muddy kind of burgundy in here, but I really hate these. Now look at this. This is pink. Dear God, I hate this. So sorry. Oh, I'm laughing because between these paints and my 7-day version of It's Been One of Those Days, I'm not having any great luck here. Okay, maybe I can fake it. All right, I got a way to fix this here, even with this dirty water, because I don't think the dirty water is even going to make a difference. You are now experiencing how to screw up a painting, and every artist should learn that. And the cool thing about if you screwed it up and if you hate it, well, there's two ways to approach it. You just keep plugging along, and most professional artists will do that because they know there's an ugly spot, but they also know when it really is ugly, and it's not just an ugly part. This is really ugly, okay? This is not just an ugly point. This ain't gonna get better. So you just keep plugging away. And what I do at that point is that's when I start to experiment. That's when I'll do things like throw paint at it, little speckles, and do odd things. In the meantime, I'm going to see that still is not the color I want. Now let's try this one. This is almost fluorescent. Not something, again, that I use. I'm going to have to give these to my neighbor's kids. That's actually not a bad color, but oh dear God, what junk. I am not fond of gouache. And these paints, they're gouache. They're not watercolor. They're not true gouache either, but they're closer to gouache than they are to watercolor. Now, this actually didn't turn out bad, color-wise. I actually rather like that color a lot. It's kind of one of my favorites. Kind of an orchid, which is like magenta or fuchsia mixed with a little bit more purple, and it's lighter white, okay? And again, that paint that I just used is most definitely got white. It's got a white base in it. And you can see it. And there's, if you look at this closely, if you know anything about watercolors, you can see that this is not watercolor paint. It doesn't do, look how flat that paint is. Watercolor doesn't do that. And the watercolor is transparent enough for the paint, the white of the paper, to show through. And it gives watercolor this, even when it's dry, it gives watercolor this unique sparkle that no other medium has, okay? I can't explain it, but it is the reflection of the light hitting the paper behind the paint. And it creates this illusion of sparkle of, not, you know, sparkle, but a glow. I mean, it's why watercolors are so beautiful. That's why this isn't. All right. This was a bad learning experience for you, and I'm very, very sorry. But you're learning one thing. Again, like I said, you're learning how to deal with a bad experience. I'm trying to figure out, I don't even know if my mind is in a point to be kind of experimental. You know what I'd like to do right now? I'd like to actually take a piece of book print, a book page or something, cut it out and paste it on here. And I'd like to make this into a real mixed media piece, you know, and then just glue some stuff on it. Okay. That's what I think I would do. I would turn this just into a total experiment. But we don't have time for me to get out samples, my paints, you know, all that. Not my paints, my things that I collect over the year like that. And then I cut them out and paint over them, paint under them, slap them on with, you know, some, not sealant, whatever goes with my painting that I'm working on chemically. Like a glue, but it has to be transparent. And no, not Mod Podge. And it's not Mod Podge, it's Mod Podge. That's a fine little tool for decoupage, fine little material, but it's water soluble. It's not a glue. It works like one, but it is water soluble. So at least the original Mod Podge. I know they've got other stuff today. I don't know what I'm going to do here, but I think I need some water, and I'm just going to pull the lid off this because that's where my water is. Or better yet, here. You might as well go in there because, and empty it out. Pardon my arm here, guys. I need this cleared out a little bit. And I'll put my drinking water in there. And now I have pure water. Or semi-pure. Okay. I think I'm going to go in and get kind of a yellow-orange. Maybe pop a little fun color into that. Right here, I should be getting it pretty nicely. And I want a little more yellow. I don't think these are going to last very long. I'm halfway down the middle of this yellow tube to boot. There we go. Get what you pay for. I can't remember where I got these, but I suspect I got these on Temu. Which is actually, don't mistake me, some of the stuff on Temu is pretty good. And I've gotten Bien Fang watercolor paper. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. I've never heard it pronounced, and that's the way I've said it for God knows how many years. Bien Fang or Beyond Fang, whatever it is. Very good watercolor paper. My preferred watercolor paper is D'Arches, or Arches, D'Arches, 300-pound cold press. I love it. Yes, I said 300-pound. And that is what I prefer. I hate stretching watercolor paper. And with a 300-pound paper, I do not have to. I don't like buckling watercolor paper. I'm not traditionally I like wet and wet, okay? But I'm not a traditional watercolorist. I actually did a lot of book covers, and I did portraits and all sorts of things, but I don't do a typical loose watercolor technique. I do use the techniques in certain areas, like a background, etc., but I tend to do more of an oil technique. I do a glazing technique more so. So I'll put down a color and I'll glaze a color over it and glaze a color over it and glaze a color over it. If you're putting that much work into a color, onto a paper, you kind of need a high-end cotton. The D'Arches is 100% cotton. It is a rag paper, rag content. It's not, there's no wood pulp in it. This is, that's what I need. That's what I need. although this is it. This is the same thing as sort of like my cat's water thing that I just bought her. Every 3 hours or 4 or 6, it tips the old water out and puts fresh new water in. See, that's how you do. This is what that is. I have to do it manually. That one does it automatically. But that works. This doesn't. All right. So if I leave this here, and I could do just a little curve, leave that here. I'm not going to leave that. I'm just going to leave. I don't know about this. I'm going to put a color in here. I didn't get the color I wanted, which was that turquoise. And there's nothing. Ah, wait a minute. I see something that could be. Now, why this looks like green, I do not know. But let me get in here and get deep into this paint. All right. There we go. Too dark. This does have a white. And see, that's another thing that would always make me a little suspect as to watercolors. And you can buy white in watercolor. Yes, you can. So that's not a tell-all, okay? But you generally don't get white in a set. But I'm going to use this white. And maybe I can, there we go. That's a little closer to the color I wanted. I still want more white, though. There we go. That I like. Okay. And it's a little green. It's got a little green in it, which doesn't bother me. It's a little aqua. I don't have a problem with that. Okay. Oh, I dropped water on there. Isn't that interesting? And would you like to see what's going to happen? Now, I can leave it alone, but it's going to make a mark. Okay? I never drop water on my paint. I'm having a bad day. All right. I don't know if you can see it, but let's bring it up here. Now, you see the water? Okay. All right. Now, if I leave it here, it doesn't matter. It's going to make a mark. What's happening is it's doing a little bit of a backwash, okay? Or cauliflower, whatever that other word is for it. That's the one I like better. And so it's taking a little bit of the paint that's in there and pushing it towards the outer edge. So when this dries, or if I let it dry, the outer edge will be darker, and then this whole area here will be slightly lighter because it pulled up some of the pigment and moved it to the edge, okay? That's what a backwash does. Now, oh, that's not completely cleaned out there. Okay, watch this. You can you wipe it all out, take a dry brush, okay? Completely dry brush, and a clean one, hopefully. And you can lift that. Now, since I've done that, I am going to do that all over here for texture. I'm going to do a big one here. Let them sit there and soak a little bit. Okay. And we're going to create a little texture here. Let's do a big one here. Bigger one. Okay. Little ones. I'll probably be smart if I lift those little ones first. Oh, let's do a very big one here. Just for the heck of it. This reminds me of a circus. I'm not doing a very good circle here. I'm doing a terrible circle. It's already lifting. That's okay. I don't have a problem with that. It's not going to get as dark of a lip on it because I'm not letting it sit there. Okay, one more little one there and maybe a half of one there. Okay, a little one there. One there. One there. All right, now let's go suck this one up. All right, and this, see, there's all sorts of fun things that you can do to create textures and designs. And this was a mistake. I didn't want to drop that paint there, but you know what? It was oh, okay, I'm going to use it. I'm going to say it. It was a happy little accident. All right? But that's literally what it was. I hadn't planned it, but it worked out quite nicely for my purposes. And now this is looking like something that I could possibly pull out of the trash can. Okay? It's not, this alone here has this and that, popping that and pulling that color up a little bit. It's giving this a little bit more interest as far as I'm concerned. It's not quite the failure it was. And that happens a lot. That's why you don't get mad. You know, you don't, although that can work too sometimes. You don't start throwing things at your painting. Yes, I did one time, and I'll tell you about that. And you don't throw it, don't crumple it up. And although that can, you can crumble it up and then straighten it out, and then you've got all these interesting cracks and stuff that are going to occur because they fold the paper and paint will collect in the little cracks and they'll be darker. So then you'll get another texture you weren't expecting. I swear to God, sometimes. But one time, oh God, I was having a horrible day. And you know, when you're a professional artist, you've got a deadline. You can't, what you should do, and what is the wisest thing to do when you're having a bad day, is to stop and walk the heck away from your painting. Just leave it the heck alone. And you know I don't want to say heck. Okay? I do love those. Me and my polka dots. Okay, I like that. Anyway, I was doing a science fiction illustration, and it was an alien, kind of like he was supposed to look like a Vulcan, but he wasn't a Vulcan. He was white. He wasn't white. I didn't paint him white, but he was supposed to have pure white skin and pointy ears, and he had like white hair. I can't remember anyway. Actually, it was kind of cute when I got done with him. Couldn't walk down the street with him without people staring at him, but he was kind of cute. I did something, and I can't remember what it was, but I made a terrible mistake. And I messed it up big time. And I had to fix it. But I wasn't going to. I figured I was going to have to start over. So I took that painting. I was so mad. I took that painting out in my front yard, and I turned the hose on, and I hosed that thing down. I swear, neighbors must have thought I was crazy. I was mumbling because I didn't want to scream what I was saying. And then I just shook off the water, and all of a sudden something started to happen. Things started to happen to the paint, where paint was coming into an area and going out of areas. It was doing wet and wet techniques is what it was doing. Okay? And they were getting very, very interesting. That turned out to be one of the best paintings, best illustrations I've ever done. I mean, it was so loose and beautiful and just wonderful. And they loved it, okay? But God, I don't want to have to get mad every time I want to do a great painting, you know? So I kind of studied it and, you know, found out those, you know, those little, it's wet and wet, basically. But when you get wet and wet, there's a lot of, you don't have a lot of control, okay? That's why you don't see a lot of wet and wet illustrations. Because you're trying to please somebody else when you're working for, you know, a publisher or whoever. And when you don't have control, it's kind of hard to do that. It's hard to do that anyway. Now, no, I don't like that. No, I don't like that. I like this big area all by itself. And maybe, here's what I think I'm going to do. Maybe I'm going to do, Maybe I'll leave a little area. Get off of me, fly. It's going to be, I'm in Tucson. It's 85 today, at least. The horses are out there. The flies are coming. You know, I got a horse right, not in my backyard, but in my neighbor's backyard. The closer the horses, the closer the flies. We'll go through the flies until it gets too hot. They leave, and then we're stuck here. You know, 110, 115. I don't know what I want to do with this. I got my pinks right here. See, I got a light pink here because I lifted that color. You know what might be interesting? Oh, I've got some ooh, this is going to be interesting. I don't think I want to spray this. You know what? Maybe I will. I'm going to cover that up. I don't want it to get it. Let's see what we can get with the alcohol spray on dry. Not going to get too much, but you're going to get some texture. Okay? All right. Now let's see what it does. If it does anything. Not much. It was dry. It's picking a little up in here, but nah, you got to have... my brain just went away. This little guy. I wonder if this will help. If I do a big drop on there, like I did the water. I'm going to try that. This is not the size of eyedropper that I like. It's a little too big. But I couldn't find my small ones. So I'm just going to touch that there. And see what happens. Uh-oh, I didn't mean to do that. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. See? I can't control it. It's got too big of a thingy. I don't know who my little one is, but we'll worry about it later. It doesn't look like it's doing too much. Anyway, and I'm going to lift this because it is kind of bleeding out, and it just went into my white area. I'm telling you guys, this is one of the worst painting days I've had in a long time. I hope you're having fun. Okay. I'm going to, at this point, I'm done. Okay. I can fix this, believe it or not, but I'm going to do it not with watercolor. I'm going to do it with paint pens. Let's grab this. I just grabbed whatever I could get my hands on because fortunately this will work in there. But I'm going to take these and I'm going to do maybe fill areas. There's some pattern in here. Let me do this. Oh dear. We don't want to use that. I don't want that color. Now, these, you're watching that. This pen is not that color. There's a lot of white base in here, and it's not mixed in. So, I need to mix it better. And these you have to shape, most of them. Not all of them. But these particular ones. Until that white starts coming down. And he's not coming. All right, that's going to have to be good enough. It's not the color I want, but it will do. What do I want to do? I want to do this. I want to put some dots in here. Okay? This is a little... Now, this is going to dry darker because these are acrylic. Acrylics dry darker than they paint. So these are going to be darker. Okay? Okay, so I will come in and I'm going to start doing all sorts of little things like this. But I don't want to use those paints anymore. They have frustrated me beyond belief. All right. Now I've got to find a better one. Maybe let's use a dark blue here. I can get to that. And it's a different color blue. And you can again see, now you can see on this one, I don't know if you can, but there's the pigment and then the white's coming down. But I used this one recently, so it's not too bad, but I still have to get more of that white coming in here. It should be closer to this actual color here. And I'm holding this paper up because these can splatter. They can sometimes leak. But I don't have time to mess with that either, so we're going to use it as is. Now, I am doing bigger dots here, smaller itty bitty and less dots here. Okay, more medium, so I want the dots to go from tiny to medium to giant. Not giant, but bigger. It just makes it a little more interesting. Plus it concentrates more of this color down here. See what I'm saying? All right, now you can already see that this is becoming more interesting. All right? This is actually the fun part too. I like the painting part, I like the drawing part. But see how that becomes just a little more interesting. Especially, this became a lot more interesting. We can even do more to this. We could go in maybe with some light white dots in the center or around these pink ones. You know, it can be all sorts of things that you can do. This is really not quite finished here, but I am going to have to put color here because of that bleed over. And then I smeared this here. Now, sometimes on a good watercolor paper, I shouldn't do it on this one because this is not a good watercolor paper. But there are lots of tricks for lifting paint, watercolor paint. And don't get anxious. It's not erasable. And some colors aren't even liftable. But sometimes you can scrape it off gently. I want to use more of the flat blade here. I don't know if you can see by the way you can pinch the screen and close in on this to see it close up. Now that's not perfect. And if I ink, more than likely, that black could easily bleed into this scraped area because this should only probably be done at the very end in an area that you don't want to put more color on. But I wanted you to see that little trick too. Okay? You can scrape. You can lift colors. There's a lot of different things that can be done. You can use bleach. I do not recommend it. Okay? You can also use, if you want, let's grab this. Markers. Okay? So let's use this as a marker. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do lines. Now, these Sharpie markers, they're like watercolor markers, okay? They are transparent. However, these are permanent. These aren't going anywhere. There's no lifting, there's no erasing. Once it's on there, it's on there. It is on there, okay? So you can use paint pens, you can use markers, you can use colored pencil. Mine are tucked away. You know, you can use regular pencil if you want. There's all sorts of ways you can, that makes it a mixed media. There's nothing wrong with that. And that's what I do with all of these. I have not done this one yet. I have got to get it finished. I like this. I like these colors a lot. I like this color combination. That's my favorite color right there. And I don't have any in here, and that could be fun. But I still want an unpainted. I still want a negative. I have a lot more negative space in this, and I like it. This one, I only that one little area there. Okay? And that was a last minute thought. This, I hate this. Part of me wants to go paint this over. Okay? But it's a lesson learned. I did not check my pen that I wanted to use on here, and it was empty, and it started to cause problems, and as a result, these were not what I want. They weren't even, they weren't color, as some of them were past, some of them were way too light, some had no pigment in them and way too light, some had too much pigment and blocked, okay? So it's sort of like ruined this whole section here. But lesson learned. I love these little dots. I have this thing about these little shades. These I call these little shading dots. Okay? I use those often when I'm doing pen and ink. I use dots and lines for shading. And you can also use cross-hatching and different types of textures to add. The more texture you put on, the darker the area starts to look, the more lines. So, you know, a couple little lines far apart, very light texture. A few little dots, same type of thing. More, and more, the darker it gets. And it's still line art. Okay? I think you guys, you have the idea. I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet. So we've been on here for an hour, and I think that's enough. And I thank you for visiting. If that was Genesis or Isabelli, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but whoever it was, thank you. And thank you for the wave, which looks like part of your name. So thank you very much, and we're going to finish our live and go have dinner. I'm getting hungry. So bye, guys.